Islam, Moors. Malik Youssef Bey back with another one. And like I said, today we gonna talk about the King Alfred plan. And I'm gonna jump around from different documents to coincide with what I'm saying, to match up with what I'm saying, so that it'll make more sense and you can comprehend it better. But before all that, you know how everything starts. So here we go. Allah is the Father of the universe. Allah is the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector and my guide and my salvation by night and by day through his holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Islam. Islam. Prophet warns all Muslim governors ordered to read proclamation at each meeting. I hereby inform all members that they must end all radical agitating speeches while at work, in their homes, or on the streets. We are for peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your cards at Europeans. It causes confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation. Failure to obey these orders will be of severe consequence. We are for love, truth, peace, and freedom, and when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Any member or group of members who hold malicious feelings towards the temple or the prophet or violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement will receive their reward from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors will and must obey the law as laid down to them by their prophet. If they lose confidence in their prophet, they should turn in their car and button, cease wearing their turban and fez, and return to the state where the prophet found you. This is a holy and divine movement founded by the prophet Noble Drew Ali. Assalamu alaikum. And if the prophet is not right, the temple is not right. The prophet therefore is sending out a divine plea to all Moorish Americans that they do their part in protecting their prophet and the temple. This is an everlasting movement founded by the prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways. Noble Drew Ali. Assalamu alaikum. To be proclaimed at each meeting. Islam. I am glad to know that I have a few faithful Moors among you all, and I desire for them to know the truth and the divine truth. There is a host of jealousy about me and the movement now by the same people of our side of the nation that claim I was only a joke and unreal. But now, since they have found out from government officials and the nations of the earth that this is the only sole foundation that all Asiatics must depend on for their earthly salvation as American citizens, they are working every scheme that they can to disqualify me so they may take charge of the situation. I have notified all of these things to you long ago in the past. It is through the faithful Moors that attribute to the movement and uplifting funds. The ones that paid their divine respect to me and the movement will be remembered. That is why I'm calling upon all faithful Moors to increase your faithfulness to me, your prophet, and your divine Moorish movement. I need finance, and I need it badly. Never before have I needed finance so badly as I do at present, so I can shove aside the discord that is facing the nation. It all comes through jealousy because of my fame and nobility. The nations of the world would not recognize the movement without I, the prophet, being head. It has been proven by my works which I have performed in the past few years. Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Assalamu alaikum. To the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America, Islam. This is instruction from your prophet Noble Drew Ali. Be faithful unto your forefathers' divine and national creed that you will be blessed for your good deeds that you sow in the flesh. Allah is the one that judges the world, and his judgment is now on, but the weak can comprehend it not. The end of time is drawing near, so says Allah to his divine prophet, I, Noble Drew Ali. And that's why many hearts have been turned to stone, and many have eyes to see but cannot see, ears to hear but cannot hear, lest they would be confounded of their sins. These are trying hours now, dear Moors, and every evil spirit is moving, and they are trying every weak mind to overthrow and drag out the true foundation that has been laid. and to cause confusion in the minds of the ones that do believe. But if you had a true love of Allah in the spirit of your forefathers, you fear not what you hear or see, but would sacrifice the utmost of your very life to protect your movement and your prophet. Watch your enemies, dear Moors. Your enemies are the ones that speak against your prophet and ridicule him to the very lowest, and the ones that speak against your divine and national principles of your temples. Act accordingly, and Allah will bless you for your good work. Peace, your divine prophet, Noble Dry Ali. Assalamu alaikum. Okay. Now, as I stated, we gonna go. I'm gonna flip the camera into the King Alfred plan. In this, you can go on RV Bay Publications and find this document. You can Google it, and there's the source right there. King Alfred Plan, code name Rex 84. Executive Order 0. Hold on. I forgot the executive order, but the source is right there. The King Alfred Plan, code name Rex 84. Totally repugnant to the United States Republic Constitution. Understand why saying that is important. Repugnant to the United States Republic Constitution. So when these people called politicians that y'all keep calling government, getting up there speaking on something called democracy, is automatically a fraud. Because the Constitution, the treaties, everything set up was for the free Republic of America. That corporation called the United States was set up in the country or nations of Morocco Republic, the free place. This is not a democracy. I pledge allegiance to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands. Where do you hear democracy mentioned? Matter of fact, speaking on it, this is what they're talking about right here. The Constitution for the United States of America, North Continent. This is the real organic Constitution right here. Anybody that's talking Constitution, principles, or rights, and they don't pull up this document, they're lying. They're handicapping you. So anybody that's discussing quote-unquote law, if they can't go to a law book, if they can't pull up the record and show what the real law is, they're doing you a disservice. So before I even touch on, because like I said, I'm going to jump around. All right, going back to this document. This document, the King Alfred Plan, was set up originally by the Pope of Rome and all his operators, from the politicians to the religious operators to the which y'all call lawful operators, which are really legalese because they owned by the Bar Association, which is the British Accredited Registry, which is they are owned by the British Crown, which was originally founded by Moors, passed down to their bastard sons, the Muslim sons, the European sons, not these white people, because white people are these people now called black people. Those are the white people. They switch places with you. All right. So, the King Alfred Plan. In the event of widespread and continuing and coordinated racial, which those people who can study and go look up the word race, is not dealing with different colors and different nations of people. Different nations of people don't make up different races. There are no different races. There's only one race on this planet called the human race. And that human race is broken up into different families called nationalities. how everybody is recognized. These people, these Asiatics of North America, have one too. But they was deliberately kept from theirs, which is where the problem lies for Moors who have went through that same problem. So don't look at it like now that we're talking like this, we didn't go through that same problem. We went through that same problem and still going through a lot of those same problems of being falsely what they call educated, which education really wasn't false. When you think about it, you're not really miseducated. You are educated because they did exactly what they were set out to do. Go look up the word education. It's training for animals. So when they call people 3/5 and calling you the monkey now, and then they have to come up with a system to train those monkeys to stay in line. How do they do that? With the General Education Board set up by Frederick T. Gates and Rockefeller in 1902 when they swore and vowed to make the people docile. I know y'all heard the quote when the famous one from Rockefeller when he's saying he don't want a nation of what? Thinkers. He wants a nation of workers. They don't want you to use your mind. As we keep stating, man is mind. Everything starts from a thought. So if somebody else can control your thoughts, they can control your soul and your body, which can control your actions, which can control your conditions. This is why understanding who you are, which these people that are called black, you're Moors, understanding Moorish science, which means life science, you will understand that it's all dealing with human creation and human conduction. I can't stress that enough. Moorish science, or what they refer to in layman's terms as they call it, masonry, is referring to life science, which means human creation and human conduction, starting with the mother. The mother is the womb man. She's the bringer of all life. That fetus that is still her, Muslim, mom's limbs, she develops in her mind what she want that being to be. Either another replica of her, which is a woman, or she wants a protector. So in her mind, she creates a son. And that's where Mason come from, Ma and son. Re is the study of it. So Ma, son, Re, studying the study of Ma and son. Human creation and human conduction. So this right here, when they're talking about coordinated racial disturbances in the United States, King Alfred, at the discretion of the president, is to be put into action immediately. So ever since the 60s, really a little bit before that, they really had this plan in action, really around roughly 1871, when they killed off President Lincoln, who didn't free the slaves. The initial plan was for him to free the slaves, but that Emancipation Proclamation that everybody talks about is not the original one. This is why, shout out to the master teacher Taj that says law and history go together. When you understand the flaws, when you go study, you will see that things been replicated, that they've been that they've been casted over. Same names, different policies. Even going back to this title, the United States Corporation. See, the United States Republic is the organic United States Corporation. The United States, when they're talking democracy, what you're seeing today is fraud. Ever since 1861, fraud. 10 years later,
The Naturalization Act came into play when these people started usurping these indigenous, aboriginal, Moorish Americans' land, claiming to be them, claiming to be American. Go look up Webster's or Oxford's, the original definition of American. Originally applied to the various copper complected nations found here by the Europeans, which means that we was already here. Then they talk about now it applies to the descendants of, but you can't change a word, its meaning. This is why etymology, studying etymology is important. That's the true origin of all words. You can't change the meaning of a word. It becomes a connotation at that point, which is not the denotation, the true origin of it. And when they're calling our people Negro, black, and colored, that is a connotation of your bloodline. Your true bloodline is that of Moorish American if you are born in the Americas. If you're born in Nigeria, you're a Nigerian Moor. If you're born in Russia, you're a Russian Moor. If you're born in Manchuria, what they now call China and all that, you're a Chinese Moor. Same thing. And everybody else around the world can get that and understand that, but these Asiatics of North America, they keep placing colors on people, trying to get law and rights that are established for nationalities with colors, which don't apply to the human family. They don't apply. I know you like to think so because you've been trained that, but true scholarly, true erudite is understanding of words. And how do you understand words? You study etymology, the true origin of it. Origin, original, aboriginal. Moors are the aboriginal and indigenous people here. No Indians, no Native American, because native means to come from. So to come from is not a nationality. Native is not a nationality. It's referring to nativity. It's referring to the fact that you came from a naval womb, that you have a nave el, because we're navigating els. The lawgiver, which is a Moorish title, el. It's simple, but the people want to make it hard for no reason. So, going back, participate in federal agencies, National Security Council, Department of Justice, Central Intelligence Agency, Department of Defense, Federal Bureau of Investigations, Department of Interior. Now you see why they knocked off President John F. Kennedy, because he wanted to dismiss. All this came out around the time that he was in office in the 60s. After they got these sellout marching leader guys calling themselves black and Afro-American and keep hope alive and I have a dream, when all of them are 32nd and 30 degree Masons that have sold their people out. Go listen to your boys. I have a dream last speech when he said he brought my people into a burning house. When he said the people are refugees in their own land. You wasn't brought from nowhere else. Your ancestry is here on the continent of America, North, Central, and South. And that North, Central, and South America consists of many different countries or nations. The continent is America. That's not the country. That's not the nation. That is the continent. And many nations many nations are found on that continent. Their conception is on that continent, which makes them that being when you recognize them
from the nation that they come from. If they come from Central America, 9 times out of 10, they're probably Mexican. They come from Mexico, so they're Mexican. Or they come from Belize, they're Belizean. They come from Nicaragua, they Nicaraguan. They come from El Salvador, they El Salvadorian. They come from Peru, they're Peruvian. You don't go around calling them the orange people, the blue people, the yellow people, the green people. Nobody else in the world gets that crayon color put on them. And even the people, when you're calling them quote unquote white people, they only allow you to do that so that you can keep using the dumbed down term black. But when they're placed upon and before the law, they go into their national origin. I'm not technically white, I'm German, I'm Scottish, I'm Irish, I'm English, I'm Dutch, I'm Swedish. See what I'm saying? Those are nationalities. Those are bloodlines. A color is not your bloodline. And anybody that's falsifying that information, tell them to go to a book and look up that definition of color and see that it doesn't apply to human life. Color is a simulacrum, distinguished from that which is real. Human flesh is real. A color is distinguished from that which is real. So you can't put something that's not real in the place of something that's real and expect people to respect it. It's not going to happen. Technical difficulties, but I'm back. But like I was saying, when you place a color distinguished from that which is real in front of something of realness, you can't imagine how the rest of the people who know that that's false looking at you. You keep thinking racism, they're looking at you like they're talking to a blatant fool. And then you're running around talking about you're educated, talking about you got some degree and all this and that, and the rest of the world is looking at you crazy. And then you wonder why so-called you're inferior to everybody when you're going on these jobs and stuff, because everybody else is going on these jobs under their national origin. They're getting businesses started under their national origin. They're getting grants for land and homes and everything else under their national origin, while you're doing everything under a crayon color. And you wonder why you're getting the bottom of the pit out of everything. It's because you won't identify what you're properly supposed to identify as. Your national origin would not only put you back in the proper position, it will put you at the top position because you're the mother and father of it all. Now, part I wanted to touch on is to show these people the same thing that we as Moors who study already know, as well as everybody else around the world, as well as these quote-unquote governmental officials, which are de facto. They all know this information about these Asiatics, now called black people. They all know this information about these Moorish Americans, now called black people. This memo is being submitted in lieu of a full report from from the Joint Chief of Staff. This report is now in preparation. There will be many cities where the minority is what they call these Asiatics now, because they saying by you not knowing that you're Moors, that you keep thinking you're black, you have the thinking capacity, you have the thought process of a minor. So that's why you're called minority, because you clearly outnumber the world. When you place all of us together, we outnumber everybody. So how are you the minority? No, that's dealing with their thinking capacity. You have the thinking capacity of a child, where the minority will be able to put into the streets a superior. Superior means supreme, right? That means ruling. So if you're superior, why are you minority? How are you minority if you're superior? If you have a superior number, because minority is not dealing with numbers, it's dealing with the mindset. Put into the street a superior number of people with a desperate and dangerous will. He will be a what? Formidable enemy For he is bound to the continent of America, not the country, not the nation, but the continent of America by heritage. So when these sellout Negro leaders getting up here, clear-cut lying, talking about we not indigenous here, we got put on ships and brought here from our homeland, when everybody is telling you through all of these records, even the so-called enemy is telling you from their own records that you are bound to this continent by heritage. That means that by bloodline, not by somebody chaining you up and bringing you over here, by you coming at the wound of your mother. You come from the nation state here. You wasn't brought nowhere. They came here and took over your stuff. Then back it up a little bit to show you that these sellouts that y'all keep calling leaders, your I have a dream and keep hope alive and all this and that, I'm black and I'm proud, and all of these people know this stuff. Listen to out of their mouth again, same document, out of their mouth. At the appropriate time to be designated by the president, the leaders of some of these organizations are to be detained only when it is clear that they cannot prevent the emergency, which is what you're seeing today, which is why you're seeing all these sellout Asiatic people getting karma, Yedidis, and all of these situations that's going on. That's King Alfred plan, right in your face. It's not no Mason Illuminati. It's King Alfred plan. When they are killing off these celebrities and killing off these politicians and just killing off people, period, it's King Alfred plan. Set up by the Inquisitionists. Started by the Pope, called the Don, or in their eyes, they call him God. So it says, some of these organizations are to be detained only when it is clear that they cannot prevent the emergency. These leaders they're talking about, working with local public officials during the first critical hours. All other leaders are to be detained at once. A compiled list of minority leaders have been readied at the National Data Computer Center. So when these people starting up these marching, protesting Negro groups, don't think that they're not in bed with these people. They're telling you it is necessary to use the minority leaders designated by the president in much the same manner in which we use minority members who are what? Agents with Central, CIA, and Federal, FBI, and we cannot, until there is no alternative, reveal King Alfred in all its aspects. Now you see why it's so hard to get this information out. Now you see why it's so much pushback when Moors are trying to get our people to look into the records and the documents, lawful documents, as well as historical. But these leaders, your Dr. Umars and all of these people, never pull up these records. But these are scholars, though. These are scholars, went to school, so-called starting universities. But they don't know this. This is geopolitics. This is the politics that is running the country every single day that nobody can seem to pinpoint. But that y'all keep calling democracy. This is democracy. This is that democracy. That's why it's repugnant to the republic. It's repugnant. It's absolutely against. Because the democracy is them usurping your land, stealing the people's birthrights, and using your people amongst you to do it, which makes it even more a crime. These people, your Umars, your Jesse Jacksons, your Martin Luther Kings, all the way to these so-called conscious community people, all of them are committing treason. All of them. And until y'all start reading for yourself, you'll see that not only are they committing treason, but you are too. You're committing treason. Anybody that's identifying as Negro, Black, Colored, African American, Indian, Indigenous, Aboriginal, melanated, and all of this and that, they are agents. They are part of the problem. They're not helping. They are absolutely keeping this thing going. Now, to jump to another document, Article 6. Everybody wants to talk about the Constitution and all this and that, but they never show you it and never pull it up. What is the Supremacy Clause for America? Or what they call the United States. What is the Supremacy Clause? Which means, what is the supreme law of the land? We go to Article 6, which is the Supremacy Clause. This is the supreme law of the land. And they're going to say that in this document. So this is not Malik's opinion. This is record. All debts, contracted, and engagements entered into before the adoption of this Constitution shall be as valid against the United States under this Constitution as under the Confederation. And I'll touch on that again one day, the Articles of Confederation as well as the Articles of Association. But anything before the adoption of this document was adopted when? 1787. It wasn't an official document until 1791. So it took approximately 4 years, maybe 5 years to get ratified. But it was presented, it was adopted. Where was it adopted from? If something is adopted, that means somebody already owned something that it was adopted from. Where was it adopted from? This treaty right here of peace and friendship. Same year, 1787. 1787. So when the Treaty of Peace and Friendship was ratified in 1787, it needed another document with it to survey the people here in this territory. And for the operators who wanted to now operate it with this found business now about to operate on this landmass called Morocco. The business is the United States operating on Morocco. All the people that you see in government, the so-called founding fathers, had to adhere to this treaty. As well as this. This is the sanctioning document. This document gave sanction, but this document is the actual sanctioning document which states the rules and the obligation that these operators of this company of the United States are obligated to these Moroccans or Moorish Americans here. So going back to the Supremacy Clause, which why they made it the supreme law of the land. Shall be valid against the United States under this Constitution as under the Confederation. The Constitution and the laws of the United States of that company, which shall be made in pursuance thereof, which is these laws.
And all treaties made, and all treaties made, and all
treaties made. Now you go back before the adoption of this and go look at the treaties before the adoption of this. This is the treaty, the people who recognize them. Go look at your so-called presidents who said what nation recognized the United States? Morocco, right? How did Morocco recognize the United States? Because they're the ones who set up the business. So going back, and all treaties made, treaty, or which shall be made, future, under the authority of the United States, the business shall be the supreme law of the land, and all the judges, and the judges in every state, not just here, not just somewhere over there or some over here, the judges in every state shall be bound thereby. Anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary notwithstanding. So if they're going against this, any legal codes or statutes or anything that don't coincide with this is notwithstanding. But they came up with a system that's dealing with people who have no judicial standi, which they have no standing at law. So they had to create a system that deal with the people who don't have standing, which is a legal system, different from the law. That's why you read this document, you don't see nothing about legal. It's all lawful. Because this is the law. So again, all treaties made, or which shall be made, under the authority of the United States shall be the supreme law of the land. So if this treaty is already made, and this was adopted from this treaty, this is the supreme law of the land. Let's go to Article 6, which is one of my favorite articles in this treaty. If any more, which means it don't matter where they're from, if any more shall bring citizens of the United States, these Asiatics now claiming to be Negro, black, and colored, and U.S. citizens, or their effects, which means their property and their rights, to His Majesty, which is the Sultan at that time, or the Prince, or the one in ruler. In our time, before he died, with the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, he was the Sultan of America. The citizens shall immediately be set at liberty and their effects restored. What does that mean? That once they proclaim, once a Moor wakes them up. This is why the Prophet was the Sultan. Because what did he do? He taught these Asiatics of North America their true heritage. So when anybody who was interested and willing came to the temples or came to the Prophet, and he issued the nationality cards and the information that goes along with it for them to proclaim their heritage again, he was the Sultan. Their liberty, now they're free again. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And their rights are restored. This is why they don't want you to proclaim nationality, because your liberty and your effects, which is your rights or property, is restored. And in like manner, if any more not a subject of these dominions, telling you it don't matter what part of the world, if they're Moor, they have the ability to do it. Why? Because Moors are the mothers and fathers of all civilizations. Why they not talking about nobody else? If any Moor, not a subject of these dominions where we domicile, shall make prize of any of the citizens, which means like to marry, of America, or their effects, and bring them into any of the ports of His Majesty, they shall be immediately released, as they will then be considered under His Majesty's protection, because you're now under the Moorish Empire. You're protected under the Moorish Empire. Your rights, your birthrights. Honest to the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. The divine constitution of Moorish America. Dealing with law. The Grand Sheik and the chairman of Moorish America are empowered to make law and enforce law. Why he not talking about religion? Why did he say they're put in power to make religions and teach this and teach that dealing with religion? Why is he talking about law? Because all of this is dealing with law. This is politics. This is political. This is civics. Dealing with civilization. And Moors are the mothers and fathers of all civilization. With the assistance of the prophet. Why do they need assistance from the prophet? Because at that time the prophet was considered the sultan. Everybody had to come to him because he was the one that restored the liberty and the effects of the people by teaching them what? Their nationality and birthright. The grand body of Moorish America. The assistant Grand Sheik is to assist the Grand Sheik in all affairs, state of affairs. We already went over that, a set of circumstances. If he lives according to what? Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Why? Because now you're bringing the people to their real liberty and their true rights. Their effects will truly be restored. And it is known before the citizens of Moorish America. Because at that point, you're no longer a U.S. citizen. You're no longer a corporate slave. You're free. Now you are a Moorish American national citizen. Because your citizenship is that of Moorish, of Morocco. This is why the treaties is the supreme law of the land. And then, going over here. With us, all citizens must proclaim their nationality. Did he just say they must proclaim the religious creed they are from? Did he just say they must proclaim their God? No, he said with us, all citizens must proclaim their nationality. And we are what? Teaching our people their nationality and divine creed, that they may know that they are part and parcel of this said government. How are you part and parcel? You're part of the government because your forefathers and foremothers are the ones that set this up through this treaty and through this constitution. The parcel is your right to do business here. You have a right to operate as a national, as a Moorish American, under your nationality, in business and commerce on this land. That's what part and parcel mean. That's what your AA222141 number coincides with. That's your parcel number. That's your A1 status that everybody talking about. You don't need credit. These people can't give you credit. The only credit is your nationality, your status. And know that they may know that they are part and parcel of this said government. And know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779. So before 1779, if they came over here in 1492 and they didn't start calling you Negro, black, and colored to 1779, who was ruling still at all of this time? They was Moors, and lasted until 1865. So even after 1865, they were supposed to be giving back the information to these people that they're Moorish Americans. but during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now. That's why the prophet was sent. That new era came in. And now all men must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live. This is why everywhere you go around the world, the people there are identified by their nationality, not by a color. You go over there to Russia, you don't see people calling each other, hey, yellow man, hey, orange man. You go anywhere, all of these people that done traveled around the world, you do not see these people calling each other colors. They call each other by their national origin. Even foreigners in their land, everywhere around the world, they can recognize somebody from a whole nother nation state off of their national origin. Oh yeah, they from Russia. Oh yeah, they from Nigeria. Oh yeah, they from Singapore. Oh yeah, they from Mexico. Oh yeah, they from Peru. You see what I'm saying? They don't say, oh yeah, they from orange. Oh yeah, they from blue. You see what I'm saying? It don't make sense because color is a simulacrum, distinguished from that which is real. So when you keep proclaiming and professing to the world that you are a color, you're literally telling the world that you're not real, but you want real benefits. It's not going to happen. And all men must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live, and the nations, plural, which means this whole planet of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Drew Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways, sinfulest, ignorant ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants. They're not the religious corporation. They're the descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. That's who Moorish Americans descend from. Moabites. So when these people sitting up here talking about Moorish American, yeah, that's some religious club. That's some, that's some religious, that's your beliefs. My bloodline is not a belief. You don't believe that you was born. You know that you was born. You go over there and ask a Mexican, do you believe that you're Mexican? Or ask them, do they know that they're Mexican? They know that they're Mexican. Why? Because they know their true origin. The problem with our people, they don't know their true origin. So people are sent amongst you to wake you up and show you your true origin. The problem is that you won't read that will help your comprehension understand that this is your true origin, and this is what you need to be proclaiming to fix the problems economically, socially, spiritually, religiously. Since y'all want to talk about religion, your religion's even messed up because you don't want to proclaim this. Honest to the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Alright, so now we gonna go into the books, and I'm gonna close out with that. Alright, the chapter I'm gonna go in, first book. This is the Circle 7 Quran. You can Google this. Chapter I'm gonna go into today. The life works of Jesus, which means justice, in Egypt amongst the Gentiles. The Gentiles are these high priest magicians. Jesus, or justice, set with Elihu and Salam. Elihu would be love, and Salam is peace. Shalom is peace. So justice, love, and peace. Love, true peace, freedom, and justice. Okay. Honest to the Prophet. Assalamu alaikum. Jesus with Elihu and Salam in Egypt, which is Hikupta or Mizraim, tells the story of his journeys. Elihu and Salam Praise Allah. All life. Justice, Jesus, goes to the temple of Heliopolis and is received as a pupil. And Jesus came to Egypt land and all was well. And Justice came to Egypt land and all was well. He tarried not upon the coast. He went at once to Zoan, home of Elihu and Salam. He went at once to the home of love and peace, whose 25 years before had taught his mother in their sacred school. Whose 25, 7, 5, 12, 3 degrees, belief, faith, and fruition. So once they got to the fruition stage, they understood. They became masters, master teachers. All right, whose 25 years before had taught his mother in their sacred schools. And there was joy when he met these 3. See, the 3 degrees, 5 and 25 is 12, 3 degrees, 1 plus 2 is 3. Belief, faith, and fruition, that's dealing with the 3 degrees. And there was joy when he met these 3. When last the son of Mary, last the son, Justice, Jesus, of Mary, which means love, Ma, Re is the study of who? Ma. Son, the son, Ma and son, human creation and human conduction, saw these sacred grove, he was a babe. The sacred grove is the womb. And now a man grown by buffeting of every kind, a teacher who has stirred the multitudes in many lands. And Jesus told the aged, which means ongoing, teachers all about his life, about his journeyings in foreign lands, about the meetings. So if he's talking about his journeying in foreign lands, where is he at? Is he not home? Where is he at? In Egypt, right? Is that not his home? Oh, okay. What was the people of Egypt? What did they look like? They wasn't pale people. If they was closest to the equator, if Egypt is close to the equator, no pale-skinned people can reside there. Melanated people would reside in places that are closer to the equator, which, when it boils down to it, these melanated Asiatic Moorish people designated the whole entire planet. There's not a spot on this planet that we didn't inhabit it first. Elihu and Salam heard his story with delight. They lifted up their eyes to the heaven with love and peace. Lifted their eyes up to the heaven, your third eye, your pineal gland, heaven is your mind, your state of mind, and said, our Father God, Allah, dealing with all life, you're dealing with the universe at that point. Let now thy servants go in peace. The justice, the people who are serving the justice is the servants. Go in peace, love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. That's Salam. For we have seen the glory of Allah. We have seen the glory of life. And that is through love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And we have talked with him. The messenger of what? Love. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And of the covenant of peace on earth. Love and peace. Elihu and Salam. On earth. Goodwill to men. Through him shall all the nations, plural, of the earth be blessed. Through him, Emmanuel. Through him, I mean you well. Through justice, I mean you well. Through justice, love and peace can be served. And Jesus, Justice, stayed in Zoan many days, which is degrees, studying, and then went forth into the city of the sun, that men call Heliopolis, and sought admission to the temple of the sacred brotherhood, which is this book. That's when you get into this book, the mysteries of the silent brotherhood of the East.
That's when he received the title Jesus the Christ. You have to understand, knowing and understanding the law is what makes you a Jesus. And conducting it, that's what makes you Jesus the Christ. Seeing it crystal clear, understanding it crystal clear, which is where the wisdom comes from, in that understanding, and then conducting it. That's the justice. Jesus the Christ. That's what makes you Jesus the Christ. And then it says, the council of the brotherhood convened and Jesus stood before the Hierophant. The Hierophant is like when you seeing people go before like the bar association and they have to take oaths. The high priest that they have to take an oath when the people make them swear upon the Bible and all that. When you see
The president being inauguration, that person that holding the Bible is the Hierophant. The person that's swearing them in is the Hierophant, quote unquote high priest. So the council of the brotherhood convened and Jesus stood before
the Hierophant, he answered all questions that were asked with clearness, crystal clearness, and with power. That's what made him the Jesus Christ. Clearness, seeing it crystal clear and understanding the law, the justice of the crystal clearness of the law, the crystal clearness of the justice. The Hierophant exclaimed, Rabboni of the rabbinate, why come you here? Your wisdom is the wisdom of the gods. Why is he telling them that? Because justice, when you're seeing things, the law of life crystal clear, and you're walking and being that,
these people who don't operate fully in that, like, what do you need to come here for? You above us, basically. And he says, why seek for wisdom in the halls of men? And Jesus said, in every way of life I would walk. In every hall of learning I will sit. The heights that any man has gained, these I would gain. What any man has suffered, I would meet. Because justice has gone through ups and downs, right? People have to fight to get justice, right? So it's not always an easy thing. This is why justice, Jesus, said, I will go and walk every walk of life, that I may know the griefs, the disappointments, and the sore temptations of my brother man, that I may know just how to succor those in need. Because if you don't know a person's situation, if you don't know who they are, how can you offer help? See what I'm saying? You got to know how it feels to be able to offer that help. This is why Moors are able to offer the help of waking up, because we know how it feels to be Negro, black, and colored. We know how to be denied our birthright. But us being the justice, the Christ, we're bringing the law. We're the lawgivers. That's why we are bays and L's. L, the lawgiver. Bay, obey the law, enforcing L's law. L's and bays. And then Al, dealing with all, or the feminine version of L. They, dealing with degrees. You're knowledgeable in degrees. That means you're executing the degrees. And Ali is the most exalted one. That means you comprise all of those degrees in one without flaw. That's why the prophet Noble Drew Ali bore the title Ali. Those holy heads gave him the title El Haj Sharif Abdul Ali.
What any man has suffered I would meet, that I may know the griefs, the disappointments, and the sore temptations of my brother man, that I may know just how to succor those in need. I pray you, brothers, let me go into your dismal crypts, and I would pass the hardest of your tests. The master said, take then now the vow voting of secret brotherhood. And Jesus, justice, took the vow of secret brotherhood.
See what I'm saying? But, hold on. Again, the master spoke. He said, the highest of heights are gained by those who reach the greatest depths. See, justice is not just fulfilled through goodness. Sometimes justice has to be took through the ringer for you to fulfill it. When people are going to court for being done wrong, when they get what they're supposed to, what they're fighting for, when they get that due process, that's justice, right? Justice was received, right? So sometimes you might have to fight for justice. Justice is not always given easily or given through goodness. Sometimes it's given through badness. You have to fight to get that justice. But it all depends on how strong your will is. The highest of heights are gained by those who reach the greatest of depths, and you shall reach the greatest depths. The guide then led the way, and in the fountain Jesus bathed, and when he had been clothed in proper garb, he stood again before the Hierophant. See, that's all metaphysical. The guide navigating led the way, and in the fountain of life, justice bathed in the fountain of life. And when he had been clothed in proper garb, proper status, in propria persona, he stood before the high priest, because now he's a high priest at that point. See, when you come proper, the high priest will respect you. The high priests of the world are not respecting the people because they are in the dumbed down status. They are in the dead status. You have to be proper. What is proper? Moorish American. Improper is Negro, black, and colored. Indian, Afro-American. That is not proper. To properly identify somebody with melanated skin is to identify them by their national origin, which they are Moorish. That's proper. Islam. Now I'm going to finish up with the red book. And we're going to go into the chapter that shows you how the title justice comes in effect. All right. This chapter, Jesus receives the mystic name and number and passed the first brotherhood test. The master took down from the wall a scroll on which was written down the number and name of every attribute, character. And he said, the circle is the symbol of the perfect man. And 7 is the number of the perfect man. Now you see why the prophet deemed this circle 7? He knew exactly what he was talking about. This is not something that the prophet Noble Drew Ali wrote. This is something that was hidden from the people, and he went and redeemed it. That's why he said he was ordained to redeem his people, because we was already deemed this. We just lost it. He went and redeemed it. So the circle is the symbol of the perfect man, and the 7 is the number of the perfect man. The logos, which is the high priest, is the perfect word, that which creates, that which destroys, and that which saves. This Hebrew master is the logos, the symbol, the circle 7 of the Holy One, Allah, all life. The Holy One is all life, whole one. We are all one, whole one. Okay. The circle of the human race. There's only one race on this planet, the human race. The 7 of the time. So when Yehoshua ben Yusuf was going around doing the things that he was doing, he became the Jesus Christ of that time for humanity. When Prophet Noble Ali came and he stepped on the scene and started going around with his teachings, waking the people up, restoring the Moorish nation, he became the symbol of humanity. He's the circle 7. And it says, and in the record book, the record, on the record, for the record, let the record reflect. What is the record? The facts of life. In the record book, the scribe wrote down the logos. Circle 7, that's the logo. That's the symbol right there. And thus was Jesus known. And thus was Jesus known. So Yehoshua became Jesus the Christ because of his mindset. He understood the law and he executed it through fruition. Those 3 degrees: belief, faith, and fruition. He was walking and living that truth. So he became the symbol for humanity. Like, man, maybe I should live like that and my life would turn out great. If I just studied myself and study humanity at large and understand how I'm created and then understand how to conduct myself. Moorish science, masonry, life creation, and life conduction. Can't be more specific than that. The master said the logos, the symbols, will give heed to what I say. No man can enter into light, the truth, till he has found himself. See what I'm saying? So all of these people that don't know that we're Moors and keep promoting us as black, but they're saying they standing for the truth, guess what? They're lying. They haven't found themselves. So these people that claim they know themselves, if you don't honor what you are, you haven't found yourself. Go forth and search till you have found your soul and then return. The guide led Jesus to a room which the light was faint, mellow, like the light of early dawn. See, you got a little bit of light because you know that you're alive. You know that you're a human being, but you don't know who you are, so that light is dim. The light is not shining bright. That's why when you see somebody, bing, when they show that symbol of the light bulb clicking on, what is that light bulb? Is it dim or is it radiating at its full capacity? That means that your mind is radiating at its full capacity, which is why on the back of that dollar you have that radiating eye dealing with the pineal gland. The pyramid is your body, your mind, body, and soul. That's knowing who you are. And it says the chamber walls, which is your soul, your mind, your chamber walls were marked with mystic signs. So this science, this knowledge was embedded in you through your inception, through your conception, with hieroglyphs and sacred texts. Go look up the hieroglyph for more. M-A-U-R. What does it mean? The high priest of Anu. So Moors are high priests. And in the chamber, Jesus found himself. In the chamber, in your mind, body, and soul, justice found himself, alone where he remained for many days, going through the degrees. Belief. Dang, do I believe that I'm a Moor? I need to study a little bit. Oh, now I got some information. Now you're on to the 2nd degree, which is faith. Reading this and understanding this, I have faith in this knowledge that I'm a Moor. Then when you go out and you start through experience living and being that Moor, and you seeing people taken to you, and you getting the knowledge and people around the world is recognizing you and understanding who you are as a Moor, that's the fruition. Many degrees. He read the sacred text. Thought. That's the chamber dealing with the mind. Thought out the meaning of the hieroglyphs and sought the import of the master's charge to find himself. How do you become a master? Reaching the third degree. Belief, faith, and fruition. Neophyte, scholar, master. Adept. See, the adept's chamber is you. But you can't be an adept if you don't know who you are. A revelation came. He got acquainted with his soul. He found himself, then he was not alone. Why? Because once you know who you are, you realize you come from a nation of people. Oh, it's other Moors out here. We're all Moors. I come from a nation. I come from the womb of my mother, and she's Moor. I'm Moorish. You see what I'm saying? What's so hard and so simple or so disgusting that you people will not claim the bloodline? One night, he slept, and at midnight, 12, 3, 1 plus 2 is 3. At midnight, 12, dealing with the 3. Midnight hour, a door. What does a door do? The door helps you enter somewhere, right? Whether it's good or bad. A door that had not been observed was open, and a priest. Why is they always talking about these priests? In somber garbs. So this is a dark priest. Somber means sleep, which is what the people's minds are. Sleep. When you're asleep, isn't that dealing with darkness? Can you see light when you're asleep? No, that's darkness. So somber garbs, this is a dark priest, came in and said, my brother, pardon me for coming in at this what? Unseemly hour. Basically coming into your life at a time that you don't need them to be coming into your life. But I have come to save your life. How the hell are you going to save my life when you don't even know who I am? You are the victim of a cruel plot. The priests of Heliopolis are jealous of your fame, jealous of my fame and nobility. And they have said that you will never leave these gloomy crypts alive. He will put a superior number of people into the streets for with a desperate and dangerous will, for he is bound to the continent by heritage. See how while I'm jumping around, I'm showing you all of this coincides. The higher priest. So you have high priests and you have lower priests dealing with your higher self and your lower self. Do not go forth to teach the world, and you are doomed to temple servitude. Temple, fighting with the thoughts of your mind. So when you keep staying in that state of mind where the temple resides, under that Negro, black, and color, you're under servitude of that. You can't serve yourself because you're serving yourself death. When you know who you are as a Moorish American, now you can serve your temple with love and peace. Elihu and Salam. Through what? Jesus, justice. Come on now. It's right there. That's why I'm reading. It's right there in y'all face. But you have to go study it yourself. Now, if you would be free, how do you free yourself? What sets the people free? Truth, right? The truth shall set you free, right? How do you know that? How do you find the truth out? Going to research it and studying it. Men knows not by being told. You got to go see it. You must deceive these priests. You must tell them you are here to stay for life. And then you will have gained all that you wish to gain. Which is when you seeing all these people joining these so-called secret organizations, then they get knocked off because they try to deceive the high priest. These high priests already know your desires because they studied the lower self. I will return And by a secret way, secret organization, secret clubs, and by a secret way will lead you forth that you may go in peace. And Jesus said, my brother man, would you come here to teach deceit? Teaching lies, right? Justice. You can't have justice dealing with lies. If somebody is lying, how you gonna get justice? You see what I'm saying? Our people haven't got justice. Why? Because these people have lied about our history, right? Okay then. And I am with these holy walls, whole you, man, mind, body, and soul, holy walls, your body, your chamber, your Adam's chamber, the body is a temple, to learn the the vows of vile hypocrisy, being a hypocrite. Nay, man, my Father scorns deceit, and I am here to do to do his will. Deceive these priests, not while the sun shines. See what I'm saying? Basically telling them, like, what? Like, are you serious? When deceive these priests, not while the sun shines, what I have said, I have said. Same thing when people said, I said what I said. I mean what I say. I will be true to them, to Allah, and to myself. See what I'm saying? How do you become free? The truth shall set you free. Even if they committing lies, you still be truthful to Allah, which is all life, and myself. If I'm a lie to myself, how can I be truthful to anybody else? If I'm lying to myself. And lying to yourself is telling yourself you Negro, black, and colored. When you clearly seeing the documents that saying the Aboriginal and indigenous people here are Moorish American. Oh, that's their religion. That's that Moorish stuff. No, that's your bloodline. That's your shit too. Get over it. And then the tempter left. And Jesus again alone, but in a little time, a white robe, white meaning pure, which is why they start stealing our title of white robe, priest, white robe, which means pure guard. Robe is dealing with the garbs. That's dealing with your flesh. You're pure-fleshed, you're pure-hearted. Pure-hearted or white robe priest appeared and said, well done. The logos has prevailed. The symbols, the signs and symbols have prevailed. This is the trial chamber of hypocrisy. So you learning in your mind, through your mind, not to be a hypocrite. And how do you learn that? By standing for the truth. Learning the truth, for one, and having the willpower to stand for it through those 3 degrees. And then he led the way. And Jesus stood before the judgment seat. Justice stood before the judgment seat, because people are judging the justice off what? Did they receive justice? Did he receive justice? How did he receive his justice? By standing up for himself, for standing for what he knew was the truth was, for standing for what he knew what was right was. You see what I'm saying? That's how you become the Jesus Christ. And all the brothers stood. The Hierophants came forth, laid hands on Jesus' head. The high priest laid forth on Justice's head, and placed within his hand a scroll on which was written just one word: sincerity. Because you got to be sincere. You can't be a hypocrite. You got to be sincere with this. And not a word was said. Why? Because there is no need for words when you can clearly see the truth right there before you. That's fruition, living in and being it. There's nothing else to be said. Islam. The God again appeared and led the way to a spacious room, replete with everything a student craves, was Jesus bade to rest and wait. Now you're going into a different chapter in life. You're going into a different room. And this is when you understand the metaphysics and you understand these 7 brotherhood tests. You understand that it's dealing with you. The brotherhood is how you're dealing with society. The brotherhood is not just some sacred place where these secret masons go. That's what they turned it into. But the sacred brotherhood is humanity at large. This is why when you greet people that you never even met, yo, what's up, bro? You see what I'm saying? Because this is dealing with brotherhood and motherhood. That's why it's not fatherhood and sisterhood. It's motherhood and brotherhood. Motherhood and sonhood. This is why these people were sun worshipers. Because the sun, the builder, they're building character. And once you get to that final step and recognize it, it becomes the what? The mother of all pearls. See what I'm saying? Holy mother of what? Christ. Holy mother of Jesus. See what I'm saying? Because the mother principle is you having that wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of who you are. Being that justice. That's what makes you the Jesus Christ. Islam, again, I'll be coming back probably sometime next week, and I'll touch on some more documents. And I'll pull up some more documents and keep reaching and reaching and reaching until we can get enough of us Moors to develop this comprehension and we can change the conditions. I can't change your conditions. Me by myself can't even change my conditions because the conditions for us as a whole, holy ones, as a whole, we're all one. Everybody keeps saying, but doing the contrary. Until we become all one again under who we really are, that proper person, Moorish Americans, the conditions is the way they are. It's what you see. But you got people of all nations trying to get these people to wake up so that these conditions will change. Once you change your concept of mind, your conditions will change. You can't keep living the same lifestyle hoping that the benefits will come through or hoping that the conditions will just go away or become better. No, you have to give up something to gain something. You have to give up which was false to replace it with something that's truth. I know it's hard. It's going to take time, but this is where your willpower comes into effect. Good things comes to those. See what I'm saying? End it right here. Honest to the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Honest to all the master teachers, all the studious Moors, all the cosmic mothers. Keep on giving birth, but give birth in the correct term. By nourishing, by nurturing, by teaching those true fundamental principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Islam. Allah is the Father of the universe. Allah is the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, Him my guide, and my salvation, by night and by day, through His holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, Islam. Assalamu alaikum. All right, more study, study, study. Shalom and Habu.